Hello Mason Nation and welcome back to Mason Sports Insider. Once again, I am your host, Tyler Byram. Heading into their matchup against the St. Louis Billikens, the men's basketball team was on a 5-game losing streak, hoping to snap the streak at home on Thursday night. Mason started the game from behind, but thanks to a 14-6 run, capped up by this Marquise Moore jump shot, who totaled 15 points in the game, put the Patriots up on top 24-21. Mason continued their momentum in the second half with a 10-0 run. The leading scorer for Mason was Siobhan Thompson, who had 19 points and 14 rebounds, giving him his 10th double-double of the year, while Corey Edwards scored a career-high 16 points. Mason would go on to win the game 68-60, but are still feeling the injury of Patrick Holloway by only making 2 3-pointers in the entire game. Then, trying to make it 2 games in a row, the team traveled to Pittsburgh for a matchup against the Duquesne Dukes. However, shooting problems began to spread across the Mason offense, shooting only 13.8% in the first half. Yet, the team was only down 22-15 at the break. That was their lowest point total in the first half for Mason since 2004. In the second half, the scoring numbers did not improve much for Mason, who ended up shooting 16 for 62 in the whole game. Mason also lost the rebounding battle 45-41, highlighted by Duquesne's Dominique McCoy, who recorded 19 rebounds. Mason would go on to lose the game 62-53. The 1-1 record on the week moves to Mason up to 11th in the conference standings with a 2-6 Atlantic 10 record and 7-13 overall. St. Louis and Duquesne, meanwhile, are behind the Patriots as Mason prepares for a game against league-leading VCU on Wednesday. This past Wednesday night, the women's basketball team traveled to Richmond to take on the Rams of VCU. After the Patriots trailed for a majority of the game, Taylor Brown took over and scored 21 of her 23 points in the second half, keeping the Patriots in it. Also keeping Mason in the game was redshirt junior Christy Makube, who was able to score her 3rd double-double of the season. Despite the surge, VCU was able to hold on and give the Patriots a 70-66 loss. The key factor in the game ended up being turnovers, as VCU was able to score 23 points off of Mason's 21 turnovers. On Saturday, the team would then take on nationally ranked number 24 George Washington at the Patriot Center. Early on, the scoring became very limited for the Patriots and continued for much of the game, as George Washington's defense only allowed 6 players on the Mason roster to score a point. However, 3 of those players, Taylor Brown, who scored a game-high 20 points, Sandra Nogi, and Jasmine Jackson, got into double digits. The spread out offense of GW ended up proving too much for the Patriots as they fell 87-52. Mason, with the 2 losses, now falls to 9th place in the Atlantic 10 with a 3-5 record and 11-10 record overall. George Washington continues to run away with the conference and continues to climb in the national rankings. The men's volleyball team had off this week, but don't worry, they will pick it up next week as they will take on IPFW. Meanwhile, the swimming team participated in their final duel of the regular season against George Washington University. The team, led by Jesse Burnley, Travis Laurie, and Alex Morin, were able to defeat the Colonials 165-90, that is the men's team, moving the Patriots to 5-4 in the season. The women's team also came away with a victory from the Colonials 166-99, ending the year at 3-6 overall. Top performers for the women were Steph Maurer, who won the 50 and 200-yard freestyle, and Madison Baker, who won the 200-yard butterfly and 500-yard freestyle. As the regular season has now come to a close, the team will continue to prepare for the Atlantic 10 Championships in Geneva, Ohio on February 18th through the 21st. Junior wrestler Greg Flournoy was named EWL Wrestler of the Week off his huge weekend 2 weekends ago, in which he went 3-0 and defeated Riders Chad Walsh, who was ranked 14th by the NCAA coaches panel in his weight class. His record now stands at 22-8. Now to their huge matchup against nationally ranked Edinburgh this weekend, Mason was able to win 4 matches, but that proved was not enough as the Patriots fell to the Fighting Scots 31-14. Once again, Greg Flournoy had a huge victory with a 9-1 decision over Chase Delanade, and Mason's Jake Kedler continues to improve his national ranking with a 5-1 victory over Warren Bosch. The team, with the loss, now falls to 2-3 in the conference after starting 2-0 with an overall record of 7-9. This past weekend, the indoor track and field team hosted Patriot games at the Fieldhouse with teams from across the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast region. The men's team claimed their first place prize with 237 points over 100 points higher than second place Howard. This was in due part to the 18 podium finishes, which included 5 first place finishes. The women's team, which netted only 11 podium finishes, claimed 144.5 points, giving them the second place spot behind Navy, who had 184.5 points. Finishing off the show now is the George Mason Club hockey team, which hosted their senior night at the Prince William Ice Center. This game they would take on Radford, which would conclude their regular season. Mason got off to an early start and a 3-1 advantage thanks to 2 goals from Alexander Mandeville. However, Radford would quickly climb back to cut the deficit to 4-3 in the final period, but thanks to this steal and open netter from Tarek Zagade to seal the victory over Radford at 5-3. Keith Fagerquist recorded the victory in goal for the Patriots with a 9-5-2 record and 20 points on the season. The Mason Club hockey team finished tied for second in the M3 Blue Ridge Hockey Conference. The club hockey team remains one of the more popular club sports on campus and are always looking for new members to join next year. Well, that will end this week's edition of Mason Sports Insider. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in, and again, hope you continue to do so for the remainder of the spring semester. We will now conclude the show with this week's upcoming schedule. On Wednesday, the men's basketball team will face VCU at home at 7. On Thursday, the women's basketball team will host Dayton at the Patriot Center at 7. On Friday and Saturday, the indoor track and field team will travel to Mayo Invitational Indoor at South Bend, Indiana, hosted by Notre Dame. From Friday to Sunday, the softball team will travel to UCF for a tournament where they will face off against UCF and Boston College. On Friday, the men's tennis team will face against Morgan State at 11:30 in the morning, and men's volleyball will take on IPFW at 7. Wrestling will also face off against Binghamton Friday night. Saturday, parts of the indoor track and field team will travel to the Scarlet and White Invitational at Boston. The women's tennis team will travel to Navy at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the men's tennis team will travel down to Stafford in Fredericksburg, Virginia to face off against Mary Washington at 10 o'clock. The men's basketball team will travel to St. Joseph's at 4 o'clock. The men's volleyball team will travel to Ball State at 7:30. And then on Sunday, to finish the weekend, wrestling will travel to Bloomsburg at 2 o'clock, and the women's basketball team will host Davidson at 2. Until next time, I am Tyler Byram. See you next time, Mason.